Bedbugs spark all kinds of reactions in people. Physical, itchy bumps on the skin. Emotional, even a speck of lint on a pillowcase can trigger a panic attack. And for at least one New Yorker, artistic. He goes by the name of Rye, and I recently talked with him about how his creativity helped him cope with a 2-year battle with bedbugs. Rye, good morning. Welcome to Cityscape.
Morning. Hello.
Have you ever had bedbugs?
Yes, I had bed bugs.
Where were you living when you had them?
I was living in Alphabet City, in the East Village, and I had bed bugs, I guess, about 3 years ago is when they started, and it took almost 2 years to fully get rid of them. It's really frustrating to try to deal with them because they are such tenacious creatures.
How did you realize you had them?
I had been waking up with bites, but didn't know what they were. Essentially, one night I'd gotten up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and on the way back from the bathroom, turned on the light in my room and just saw one on the wall. And I had read something recently about them and thought, wow, that's interesting. Bed bugs are back. Who knew?
You're saying it took 2 years to get rid of them. Talk to me about that process.
There are people who have to fight with their landlords to get rid of them have a lot more trouble than I did, and even so, it did take 2 years. Essentially what happened was, first, everything I owned had to be washed and bagged, clothes, anything textile. Then we had an exterminator come in, lay down poison. Then we caulked up every crack that we could find, so every single hole in every baseboard. Then I lived out of, plastic bags for about a month. Finally got everything back out and living my life again normally for a few months, and then found them again, and then essentially repeated that step 4 or 5 times over 2 years. You really do have to take everything that you own that they could possibly be in, books, wooden things, anything, and clean them or put them away, and then you have to poison and then just hope that you've gotten them. Anything that wasn't necessary that they could hide in or on ended up getting discarded eventually.
Did you feel the need to blame anyone at all? Were you looking for a culprit? How did this happen to me? How are these in my apartment?
I tried not to blame anyone, but you do get a real sense of sort of anger at nothing. It's a very weird experience because although they're not actually disease-bearing or anything, you just feel gross and somehow dirty that they're there. I definitely was angry, but it was hard to be angry at anyone specific. They could have come in through another apartment. They could have come from me because, frankly, I did bring furniture off the street and things like that, never a bed, but I found out they can live in anything. It's definitely a frustrating experience.
Did you try to keep it a secret from a lot of people?
I didn't tell anyone that didn't need to know. Anyone who decided to come to my house, I eventually felt like needed to know. And that kept some people from wanting to hang out at my place. Then again, my brother came by a couple times a week for the whole 2-year ordeal, and he never got them. It does seem like it's a fairly random situation whether you end up with them or not.
You mentioned feeling angry, but talk to me more about the psychological impact of having bedbugs. How badly did it mess with your mind?
I ended up having bedbugs, so did my girlfriend at the time, through an unrelated situation, but we both now, years later, have bedbug dreams whenever we're stressed, and you can't not see them everywhere. Any piece of lint, anything that you find in your bed, for a moment, you're always terrified that that's going to be bedbugs again. My girlfriend to this day will cross the street if she sees a mattress on the ground. They psychologically take you over for quite a while.
You're an artist, and I understand you found a way to work through your emotions while you were dealing with bedbugs, right?
At the time, I was doing a lot of street art, and what I ended up doing was, as soon as I started talking to other people and looking online and realizing that there were so many places in the city that had bedbugs and yet so little oversight as to actually, protecting people from them, what I put together was a little stencil that ended up looking sort of like quarantine signage that had an image of a bedbug and the word, bedbugs on it. So I would go around and buildings and blocks that I knew were infested, I would try to spray with this quarantine-type image to sort of warn people, there's bedbugs here, just be aware of that. Part of it was cathartic in that I felt like I needed to honestly sort of lash out at something, the city, I don't know what. And part of it was a public service that I really felt like people deserved to know and to be on alert to deal with these things. The funny thing that I found was that, like I said, bedbugs do carry a stigma, and people did not like this image. I ended up, putting that image on buildings that were covered top to bottom in graffiti, And by the very next morning, you'd find just one spot scrubbed out, just that bedbug image. Someone had come by in the morning, seen it, and, gone to it with a piece of, with a bottle of paint remover and left everything else intact.
Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me. I guess I didn't expect people to be quite so observant, maybe. Especially buildings that are covered in graffiti already usually sort of get left alone. But instead you get this ugly little red smear where there used to be a bug, almost like the ugly little red smear that bed bugs leave if you squish them onto your bedclothes. Conversely, a lot of people who've had bed bugs have seen them and really have gotten in touch with me and said they really loved the image and loved what had been done.
In addition to your stencil art, I understand you also made posters with bedbug images.
I did. It was the same image, but put onto posters that could be quickly put up onto buildings and signs and things like that. It's just a pretty standard street art technique.
Sounds to me like a form of vigilante art in some ways.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. It was definitely what we like to call street art. Other people like to call vandalism. But I wanted people to be aware of this thing, and I wanted them, honestly, to feel a little bit of the fear that I had felt. So, yeah, I guess there's some vigilante element to that, a sort of sense of righting a cosmic wrong somehow.
Do you think there will ever be a market out there for bedbug art?
I don't know how much of a real status symbol bedbug art could necessarily become. That said, we're going to hear a lot more about them, and we're going to see a lot more sort of pop culture interpretations of them because, by all accounts, they're spreading over the whole country. They're going to be a real issue everywhere very soon.
Right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Rye is a New York City artist who let his creative juices flow during a 2-year bout with bedbugs.
Good night, sleep tight.